unit is called operations management. But
management.
before we talk about the operations management, we have various terms that you need to know, or various terms that are related to operations management. The first one is production. And production can be defined as any activity of a man that leads to the availing of goods and services that are able to satisfy a given need or want. So anything or any activity that a man does for purposes of providing or availing goods and services is what you are referring to as production. Then you have an operation. This can be defined as the steps in the overall process of producing a product or service that leads to final product. So all those steps that are involved in coming up with a new product or developing an already existing product is what we are calling operations. Then we have manufacturing. This is the process where raw materials are converted into a product that is sold to the customer. So that process of conversion, that process of transforming items into products, then so that they can be sold to customers is manufacturing. We have supplies. These are activities that are involved in change of ownership of physical products, for example, wholesalers or retailers. Then we have transportation. Those activities concerned with movement of physical products or from people from one place to another. And lastly, we have services. These are activities that are concerned with changing intellectual or emotional conditions products to our customers. For example, hairdressing is an example of a service. Then the other thing that we'll talk about today is operations management. So what do you understand when somebody says operations management? So this is that part of the organization which is concerned with transforming a range of inputs into the required output or services through a conversion process. So when you're talking about operations management, it is important for you to understand that we have various components that play a very critical role in operations management. And one of the components basically is the inputs. These are the materials or the activities that contribute to the process of production or operations. Then we have the transformation process, that is conversion of inputs into finished products. Another definition is that operation management is a set of interrelated management activities which are involved in manufacturing of certain products. If the same concept is extended to service management, then corresponding set of management activities is called operations management. Then different people have defined operations management. According to Krajewski and Ritzman, they said operation management refers to the direction and the control of the processes that transform input into finished goods or services. So all those directions and controls that an organization can do or that an organization can perform is referred to as operations management. John Naylor, on the other hand, defined operations management as creating, operating, and controlling a transformation system that takes inputs and a variety of resources and produces outputs, goods, and services needed by the customer. So John goes ahead and talks about a transformation system that involves inputs, tries to convert those inputs into goods or services referred to as output that customers are able to get and satisfy. Then according to George and Hill, operations management is the management aspect of production system that transforms inputs into goods or services. So it transforms inputs into goods or services. The other thing we are going to talk about today is the two senses of operations management. Operation management can be viewed into two senses. Number one is the restricted sense. This sense tends to equate operation management to the normal planning, organizing, and controlling of production processes, and the management of the various interfaces which support the functions and may be referred to as production operations management. Remember, management is all about planning, organizing, directing, and controlling of various resources. So this restricted sense restricts purchasing management to the general just planning and organizing. Perhaps the best way of understanding operations management in a more restricted sense is to link it to the various parts that directly responsible to achieving the organizational objectives. So at the end of the day, in the restricted sense, operation management aims at achieving the organizational objectives. The broader sense looks at operations management as a system that combines various aspects or various functions, and it may include different functions like finance, marketing, human resource, purchasing, and supply management. So it combines various functions together, and at the end of the day, those functions work hand in hand with operations management for the greater goal of the organization. Our second lesson was the objectives of operation function. The first objective of operation function is to ensure that you're able to utilize capacity of resources such as capital. So remember, in organization, we normally use resources, and the resources in this case can be classified into three. The first one is the financial resource that is very critical in any organization. Then we also have the other kind of resource called the physical resources. These are resources that play a critical role. For example, the assets that you have, the tables that you have will play a bigger role in ensuring that you succeed as an organization. Then the second objective is to ensure effective and efficient utilization of resources. So you must be able to utilize resources within your organization. And as much as you utilize your resources, one of the objectives is to be able to maximize on your capacity and to maximize on your various activities within the organization. Then number three is to ensure proper monitoring of budgets. When proper operations management is in place, you will be able to monitor some of your budgets, how much you are spending as an organization. The other thing is to ensure quality output through relevant training of staffs and regular machine repairs and maintenance. So quality is very critical in operations management in that it helps you to be able to provide quality to the customers. Remember, the customers will always be dependent on what you give them. And if the quality is bad, customers will always run away from your organization. Then the other objective is to achieve customer service delivery through proper coordination. At the end of the day, you'll be able to coordinate various activities as a result of operations management. Then it also helps to ensure efficient flow with little or no breakdowns. So operation will not be interrupted in any way. Therefore, we'll be able to achieve more by embracing operations functions. The table there shows the transformation process in operations management. And this is a table that shows the various components of operations management. And one of the components here is inputs. And inputs, we are saying, are the items that are used or the activities that can be done to the organization to kickstart the operation process. And they may include land, they may include labor, buildings, information, capital, the materials that are needed. Then we also have the transformation process. The transformation process basically is the conversion process. And some of the things that affect the transformation process is late delivery of inventory and labor turnover. Then we also have output as another component, and these are the products, the final products that go to the customer. Therefore, the organization must be able to ensure they embrace better service delivery to customers by availing the materials that are required as finished products to the customers. And for this process to be complete, there must always be feedbacks. And feedbacks here may emanate from the customers or the users of your product. And they may include inventory levels. They can give a feedback on the inventory level. They can also give a feedback on the labor efficiency and the sales volume. So that process is there and it is explained below some of the various inputs. So the other thing we will talk about today is the difference between services and products. So we need to understand the difference. The first difference is that a product is tangible, durable, whereas services are intangible, perishable products. So products, you're able to see them and you're able even to touch them. And they normally take a longer time before they expire. But on the other hand, services are intangible, therefore they are perishable. You cannot even feel them. Then consumption or use takes more time. So when you're consuming products, you can use a product for a very long time as compared to services where consumption is immediate, where when the services are done to you. Then low customer involvement. So when you are selling a product, customers are not always involved for a long time. But when you are using a service, you must always involve the consumers. Then we have long response time, where we see that it takes a long time for customers to respond to feedback. But when it comes to services, they'll be able to respond in time. Then the other thing is require larger facilities, and these ones require smaller facilities. So when you're coming up with a product, you need to have very big facilities like machines. But on the other side, services do not require that. Then products are capital intensive, use a lot of money, a lot of capital to invest on coming up with a new product. But on the other hand, services are labor intensive. They involve the service provider a great deal. Then the other thing is quality can easily be measured, but on services, quality is very difficult to measure. You cannot measure quality. Then lesson three, we talked about material management. You cannot talk about operations management without talking about material management. This is an aspect that is a management function, which primarily concerns with acquisition, control, and use of materials that are needed to the organization. And this will ensure the flow and production will not be interrupted in any way. So if you manage your materials well, it means you'll always have production at any time that you need to do production. Then the main objective of material management is to minimize material cost. So you'll be able to minimize the costs that you incur in an organization. Then you also talk about to purchase, receive, and transport the stored material efficiently and to reduce related costs. So you'll be able to purchase what is only required in the organization. Therefore, you'll be able to reduce the related costs of material. Then it helps you to trace new sources of supply and to develop cordial relationship. So you'll be able to look for suppliers for your product. And this will help you to ensure at any given time you have continuous supply of the products that you need. And this will build on the relationship between you and your suppliers. Then it helps to reduce the investment on inventory and other productive purposes. So you'll be able to reduce on issues of inventory and other related services that are not going to add value to your investment. So what are some of the roles of material management? Number one is material planning. So you'll be able to plan for the materials that you require in the organization. You'll also be able to scheduling. So scheduling basically is common in production where you schedule for certain production. Therefore, this will trigger you to be able to come up with schedules of your material flow within the organization. Then inventory control is another. And when you talk about inventory, inventory plays a critical role. And inventory can be classified into three major inventories where we have the raw materials, we have the work in progress, and finally we have the finished product. Then the other thing is facilitate production activities, So you'll be able to facilitate your production because of the management of materials within the organization. Then cost reduction through avoiding payment of idle labor and avoid obsolete surplus. So you'll be able to avoid the obsolete surplus that are not going to add value to your organization. Any question up to there? Angela. Angela? Angela? In the organization. So that can also be another role that you can put there. Yes, there's no other question. So next week we'll have the same class. Okay? So make sure you log in and tell the others to come. So I'll be summarizing and I'll be sharing the videos also. After this, I'll put the videos on your dashboard so that you can follow. Yes.
Pardon, just a minute.
Yes.
On the question about the restricted abroad.
Yes.
Suppose there's a question in a next exam. How do they normally ask that question?
In an exam.
Because I could not understand. Yeah, I could not understand anything about the restricted.
You see, we have operations management. So it can be divided into two. We have the restricted sense, which is restricted to management only, the aspect of management. But the other broader sense looks at operations management in a systems approach where they involve other departments while working in operations management. So the question maybe they can ask is that explain the broader or restricted sense in operations, but that question cannot come. That one is for knowledge purposes, so that at least you have the knowledge of operations management. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Hawezi kuuliza swali kama hiyo. Any other thing? So make sure next week you log in.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
See you when you see me.
Bye.